we're going to concentrate on the descriptive writing for today. As you can see by the screen, that is what you're being assessed on. There's AO5 and AO6. So your ability to communicate, and then your skills. So your spelling, your punctuation, grammar, etc. But I'm sure we know this by now. And that is an example of a picture that has been used before. So it's usually quite busy. But what I wanted to share with you today is an idea of how you can pre-prepare before you go in to some extent, but in a way that you can still individualize it. So it's not questionable for an examiner to see. So here is the suggested structure, and it will make more sense as we go through. So you get your picture, and you choose 4 objects from the picture to describe. And what we need to remember is the picture is just a stimulus. So it can be things that could potentially be in the picture. So for example, if you had a farm, if it was a picture of a farm and it was just a farmhouse, there's no stopping you from describing potential animals that could be there. Because as I say, it is just a stimulus. So you can add things as long as it's relevant. So then you complete an opening paragraph of 5 sentences following a particular sequence of sentence types, which I'll go through in a moment. And then this is the bit you pre-plan, this description of a storm. Now, the reason we use the storm is because you can use that with any image that you get. You can manipulate the image basically to put whoever's in it or whatever's in it into a situation where a storm can happen. And then what you do to finish is you follow the same structure, the same sequence as your first paragraph. But obviously those 4 objects that you chose to describe in your first paragraph, a storm has now happened. So we'll go through it sentence by sentence, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end once it's built up, and hopefully that will make a bit more sense. And that's the planning sheet that we've used before. So let's take this image, for example. Let's say you got this in your exam, and you'd pick 4 things from it, 4 things to focus on. So the crowd, the flags, the stage, and a band. Now, as I said about a stimulus before, you can't really see a band, but it's there for you to basically adapt it to what you need, what you want, and it makes logical sense and is appropriate to assume that there is someone playing music somewhere. So they're the 4 things that we're going to take. And then we have this structure. Now that looks very busy, but if we isolate them one by one, so you've got your first sentence, so it's going to be a 1-word sentence to start with. So pick an adjective or an abstract noun, depending on what's appropriate. Your second sentence will concentrate on whatever the first thing that you've decided to take from the picture. And you're going to start your sentence with an adverb, so more often than not, an ly word. Your third one, you're going to describe the second object you picked, and you're going to do a DD sentence or a description detail sentence, which again, if you're not sure of, if I show you an example, it'll make sense. Fourth one, describe the third object and use a set of brackets to add some detail in the middle of it. And then your last sentence of your first paragraph, you describe your 4th object and use 2 sets of 2 adjectives. So in a similar vein to your Toolman method for question 5 on paper 2, this allows you to get a lot of punctuation in, a lot of vocabulary that you'll need to decide on the day, because obviously you don't know what the picture is going to be, and sentence variety. So you're not just saying the same things over and over again, which we can sometimes get into when we do descriptive writing. It just becomes a list of information rather than trying to make it engage anyway. So I'll show you what that looks like with our picture. So first sentence, atmospheric. So you've got your adjective. Our second sentence, we're going to describe the crowd, and we're going to start with an adverb. So here, elatedly, the thousands in attendance cheered and roared, dancing along to the music. Our next object was flags, and we're doing a DD sentence. So that's where you give a brief description, and then you put your colon, and then you add detail. So colourful flags were everywhere, colon. A cacophony of styles and sizes towered above the rabble, announcing their allegiances. Next sentence, or next item, or next object from the picture, which was the stage. And we're going to use brackets here to add some detail. So the focal point of the field, in brackets, a gigantic structure of metal and light, booms the sounds from supersized speakers out to the parties. And then your final one was the band. Scruffy and glazed, eccentric and wacky, the performers manipulate their instruments like wizards as if they were their own limbs. So here you've got your two sets of two adjectives. So all different types of sentences, loads of vocab opportunities, loads of structure, and different types of punctuation. Now that doesn't take that much once you've picked your 4 objects from the picture. Now we then move on to what you can pre-plan. And I'll show you an example which you can use to help you with your structure, but I would advise altering it to make it your own. So pre-plan your storm section with as much ambitious vocabulary and terminology as possible. So structurally, I'd say use this, but obviously terminology and vocab-wise, you can do whatever you need to. But as I say, whatever picture comes up, you'll be able to manipulate it so a storm happens. So it can look like this, but then it happens. And that is a 1-sentence paragraph. So you'd leave a line before it and leave a line after it. Earthbound and predatory, a frightening tempest began to infiltrate the atmosphere. The tyrannical swarm of chaotic clouds ventured perilously onward. Furious, frightening, inevitable. Menacingly, the destructive deluge prepared itself to devour anything in its path. Raging, ravaging, and ravenous, the merciless procession of precipitation pursued its prey. An abundance of explosive and savage thunderbolts, as if thrown by Zeus himself, massacred anything in proximity. The attack continued as if the rapture had begun. Destroying and desolating, the tempestuous assault was unforgiving and incessant. It seemed as though it would never end. Chaos. Mercifully, the rampage receded, and there's another 1-line, 1-sentence paragraph. Now, what you'll notice is nowhere in there does it really actually mention anything to do with the picture, because you concentrate the description on the actual storm. Now, obviously, on the day, if it makes sense to add things in about the picture, that's fine. But just time-wise, if you can concentrate this middle bit on the storm, then you can use that for anything. So you could use that if it was a football pitch. You could use that if someone was on a holiday. You could use it if someone was on a bus, which has been used before. There's a past paper where there's just a picture of a face. You could just start to describe the person as if they're outside. It's just making it work for you. But you'll notice there's loads of different sentence variety. There's loads of vocabulary, and it just gives you less to worry about on the day if you can pre-plan it and have something prepared for when you go in. So that's your middle section. And then we go to the end. And hopefully what you've noticed, or what you will notice now, is it's the exact same structure as the first paragraph, because then you've got the cyclical structure, which you will get credit for in a mark scheme. And basically the simple thing to do is follow the same order, talk about the same objects, but just how they have been affected by the storm. So here we go. Silent. Hastily, the thousands of adorning fans ran to their tents to escape the aftermath. So that was the crowd. The emblematic flags lay discarded, : so there's your DD sentence. The colours that had dominated the skyline now created a carpet of damp squalor, with shards floating away like frightened birds. The stage, in brackets, which is now completely abandoned, looked over floods of discarded litter and the belongings of escapee festival goers. And then we finish on your 2 sets of 2 adjectives. So depressed and dejected, soaked and soggy, the band members tried in vain to salvage their instruments from the oceans of precipitation on the stage. So I'll show you what that looks like as a whole. So as a complete piece of writing, that first paragraph mirrors the final paragraph. And it just means that if you can write a really good, really engaging section on the storm hitting and going, and have that prepared for your middle, then all you need to do on the day is manipulate the picture to get 4 things to talk about. So before a storm happens and after a storm happens. Try and remember the sentence structures so that you can use a variety of punctuation and a variety of sentence starters, and you're just showing off to an examiner that you can do that. And then if you can do the final paragraph in the exact same way, talk about the same things that happen. So it literally mirrors. So you've got your one word, you've got your adverb, you've got your brackets, you've got your two sets of two adjectives, and you've got your DD sentence. Then you're showing an examiner that you understand structure and that you can use a cyclical structure. And you just, again, although it would be a lot to try and learn, if you can, it will reduce the pressure on you on the day because you just have to get yourself sorted once you get the picture. So that's not something that may work for everyone, but it's something to have a go of. And if you're wanting to revise and practice, then you can just pick any image or look at past papers and look at the images that have been used before and just practice that opening and closing paragraph and how to manipulate it with those sentence starters. But also get your own storm section planned as best you can in as much detail as you can with the vocabulary and the punctuation pre-planned. So hopefully that helps.